I'd like to hats off to Mississippi State and Coach Leach and his team to come over here and have some guys down and go out and play the way they did. I thought play with a lot of heart and a lot of fight. You know what they were able to do defensively in terms of stopping our run game. Those guys, man, we knew the guys they had up front play really hard and physical. They do a tremendous job of making you one-dimensional, and give them a lot of credit for that. And then offensively, they had a quarterback that I thought played outstanding. He's gotten better and better and better. And you watch all the games, and you see him progress, and you see Costello in there, and then you see this young kid. And talking to Coach Leach even after the game, I thought that he played so much better than they had been playing, and gave us some fits. So hats off to them. I want to thank our crowd. I thought they impacted the game when we needed it most. Second half defensively, we were finally able to rise up and get some stops, and was really pleased with how the crowd impacted that. And then obviously offensively, we were so much more explosive tonight. Those are the things that we've got wideouts that can make plays. And when all those guys are healthy and really in there in tune, we got good pass protection. We couldn't run the ball very well, but we got good pass protection. You know, we can be explosive. I've seen those kind of plays in practice and even other times when we've been able to be explosive. And I thought that was the difference in the game, was obviously our explosive plays versus theirs not explosive.
All right, let's take the first two questions from Seth Emerson and then Chip Towers.
Kirby, obviously we've asked you about JT all year. Seeing him out there today, was it a matter of this was the week where he was the healthiest to go, or watching him play, did you have any regrets about, frankly, not playing him earlier?
No, I don't think so. I think the sample size we had on JT early, which we didn't have a large sample size on anybody, but we had he took predominantly more one reps, he and Dawg, during fall camp. And, you know, his mobility and decision-making wasn't great in that fall camp period. During those 2-3 scrimmages, we gave him a lot of reps. And so we had to go direction with somebody. We had to get somebody ready to play. And we felt like the mobility and being able to have a running quarterback, which helps your run game when you have a running quarterback, would help you. And things changed, obviously, in the Arkansas game. So then we moved on to Stetson, and thought Stetson did a really good job through probably halftime of Alabama. And from the Alabama game on during the off week is when we gave the most looks and the most reps to JT, and felt like Stetson was the best answer at the time. And he played, you know, the kid played pretty good against Florida without George Pickens until he took the shot. And when he took the shot on the arm on the 3rd and 8, and he threw the touchdown, it kind of all went downhill from there. But I want to say this. Let's don't make the discussion all about that. Let's make the discussion about how well JT handled it in a world when nobody handles things very well and they don't get what they want. What he did is he said, Coach, I want to come down to the scouts and I want to throw and I want to be part of the game plan. And he came down in front of me and went every day against what I think is a pretty good defense. And he knew he was going to get hit, but he made plays. He moved around in the pocket, and he started showing us that, hey, I can do this thing. And he took the bull by the horns, and he took advantage of it tonight. And Mississippi State played us to stop the run too, and took a lot of chances, and he took advantage of that.
Yeah, Kirby, I was going to say that, you know, as much as you see in practice and, you know, all the decisions you have to make, you can't know until they get out there like tonight. 401 yards, forget the completion. You got them in front in there, the completion percentage, bunch of explosive plays. Better than you even could have imagined that he performed in that situation.
I thought we would be able to run the ball better, so I didn't think we'd have to throw it that much, you know, and I thought that we would, you know, I knew we would bend some on defense, but I didn't think we would give up those red area touchdowns. So I'm thinking that, you know, he's going to have to throw it in the game, but, you know, we needed to be able to run the ball. We got to be able to run the ball to help him, and we couldn't run it anywhere. The way they were playing us. And he's 28 of 30, I think it's 28 of 38 maybe. I'm not sure if that's exactly right. But I know that, and the thing about the drops, you know, he had a couple drops where guys drop balls and affected that. But we've known he throws a nice deep ball. Now, you saw that tonight. He puts air under it. He lets them run up under it. I mean, but he had the Kyrus drop for a touchdown, the George drop for a touchdown, which I think we made up for with a touchdown. But then we had Zamir. He threw one a little high over Zamir's head. But those are 3 completions, and I don't even know the rest of them. So I thought his accuracy was really good, and he even showed some quickness and some mobility in there when we missed some guys. That was probably the toughest part protection-wise. We missed a couple guys that he could have either redirected the protection or done some things. But our backs tonight, look, they're as disappointed as anybody. We didn't run it a lot, but if you go back and study the tape, Zamir White's blitz pickup and Kenny McIntosh blitz pickup is big time. They both picked up blitzes that allowed JT to stay upright and make those downfield throws. And I'm really proud of those guys for that, because when you're not getting the carries and you're not getting the yards, sometimes it's tough.
Let's go to Anthony Dasher and then Mike Griffith.
Hey, Coach, another JT question, if you don't mind. Obviously, he wasn't cleared for the Arkansas game. And the games that followed, how can you speak to kind of what degree his knee and mobility kind of improved from week to week until now to finally get this opportunity?
Well, it definitely got better every week. And it really, when I noticed it was when he was down there with us, because he had a big knee brace on fall camp. We're investing reps in him, and, we're out there doing 8 plays a third down and blitzing everywhere, and he can't move, and it's tough to execute in that environment, and it was tough on him. And, there's plays that Stetson and Dwan made, like Stetson against Florida. He pulls the ball one time, I don't know, early in the game. He ran for like 10 yards. That's not going to be JT's game, but JT's a good enough athlete. When we talked to him coming out of high school, he said, I run a 4.69. Well, he's a good athlete, but he's coming off an ACL surgery, so we don't know how long it's going to take to get that. But when he's got a clean pocket, he's really at his best. And I thought Mississippi State, their plan was to pressure on third down because of that. They didn't want a clean pocket. They wanted that guy to have to move around, and we picked most of it up and allowed him to stand in there and make some throws. But he certainly got better. The toughest part was having to make a decision who you're going to go with when he's not cleared. And then when he is cleared, it's like, okay, this guy hasn't taken the reps for 2 weeks for the Arkansas game or the next game. And the best look he got was probably the off week before Kentucky was the time he started getting more and more reps.
Just how different is it if you managing the game on the sideline? I mean, JT was pushing the ball downfield so much. I don't know if that was always his primary read, but to see a guy go for the jugular that often, what was your thought about that? We haven't seen that. I don't think we'd seen a 400-yard passer under you. This was the first time.
Yeah, I don't think it wasn't JT. I mean, it's how they were playing us, right? So if you play everybody tight to the line of scrimmage and you play the run the way they played it, where's their risk at? Their risk reward is vertical. I mean, the way they played us, it was to stop every play and force him to make plays down the field. And that's what he does well. I mean, he gets the ball vertical. He gives guys a chance one-on-one. And to be honest, we had our complete wide receiver core, all out there. And it makes it tougher to defend you when you've got those weapons. And he was accurate. And the one thing we said we had to be at that position was accurate.
Let's go to Mark Weiser and then Jake Rowe.
Kirby, you mentioned kind of in your opening about how Mississippi State was undermanned, I guess, scholarship-wise. What did that mean in terms of the game plan, or did you think that, given that factor, that it would be more one-sided, or how do you view that?
Yeah, I don't view it anyway, because when you chart how many people we play on road games, I mean, it's usually right around 50, 53, right? So they allow you to bring 70, but we're not ever playing 70. So the bottom 16, 17 on your roster, to be honest with you, I mean, an NFL team plays a 53-man roster, right? That's who they play in the game. That's all they have. So if it was hot and conditioning was a bigger factor, but a night game, great conditions, I don't look at it as a big factor. Well, look, we knew they were a good defensive football team, and they were without, one of their good receivers. But with the way they play, it doesn't matter who the receiver is, because they're catching it at 4 and 5 yards. It's not a vertical passing game unless you play certain coverages. And so it really is like they just insert people. It's like they're running across the field all the time. So who's out there is not as important as how accurate the quarterback is when he throws it.
Kirby, wanted to ask you about the run game, and was that a product of how they were playing you, a product of not playing very well up front? It just seemed like you got whatever they were doing, you guys couldn't seem to throw them out of it.
They kicked our butt. That's the bottom line. Hey, we pass pro'd better than they pass rushed, and they run stopped better than we ran. I'd reserve judgment until I watch it to see totally what it was, but it wasn't good enough. I mean, I know that. But look, guys, hey, they got a good defense. And I knew that coming into the game. That their defensive coordinator, he does a hell of a job. And they played their tail off. Look, I personally knew, Brule, the linebacker, Errol Thompson. I recruited him. I was like, those two guys are thumpers. What they're going to do well is attack you and be physical. They're really physical on our perimeter. Like most of the time you can't run it inside, you run it outside. Well, every time we try to run it outside, we either got a holding call or they called us for a illegal block, and we couldn't get on the edge and we couldn't get inside. So, they're a physical football team. They did a good job, but some of the stuff they played, it was hard to run the ball against.
Okay, let's go to Dean Legge and then Paul Newberry.
Kirby, two things. First of all, how tough is it to be patient with your defense when you're having to run up and tackle on those short balls? And then secondly, what was the explanation on the grounding call late in the game?
Yeah, they said that he was out of the pocket, I think. I don't know. I never got an explanation, to be honest with you, so I don't want to comment on any of that. But it's tough being patient because we told ourselves, and every team we talked to said the same thing. You got to be patient. You got to be patient. You got to be patient. You're counting on them a little bit to mess it up. And I told you all week, it's very similar to the Georgia, the triple option. Because if you're in 3rd and 1 or 2 every third down, you're not going to win. You got to get them off schedule. Okay, what's off schedule? A batted ball, incompletion, a sack, a tackle for a loss. And the series we got 2nd 10, we probably won that series. But every series seemed like it was 2nd 3, 2nd 4, 2nd 5. And we didn't play anything different than anybody else that plays them. I mean, it's crazy. You go watch tape. Every team that's played them plays the same stuff. And we probably got as good or better players than the teams that played them good. The difference, they didn't drop balls. They didn't fumble. They didn't throw an interception. Okay, they have a ton of interceptions. Will Rogers played really well and really accurate, and it forced us to be really patient, and our offense played really well and helped us out.
Coach, I'll just ask hopefully the easiest question of the night. I know guys have to win their jobs from week to week, but fair to assume that JT is your quarterback now going forward?
Yeah, I would say it's fair to assume that based on the way he played tonight, and he'll need to continue to work hard and do the things he's done in order to stay in that position. But he certainly showed poise and confidence and did some good things, not only in the passing game but in the check game.
Let's go to Brandon Sudge, and then we'll go to the red and black, either Austin or Augusta.
Hey, Kirby, so in terms of JT having this opportunity, was there a certain point of the last 2 weeks where you guys felt comfortable in terms of having him out there? And then in terms of how he handled it, what was his approach over the last couple of days of practice after you told him he would start?
Yeah, we had conversations with him the Sunday after the Florida game, and he was very adamant that he was confident in his knee, that he was ready to go, that he could make the throws and make the decision making and do all the things that we weren't getting done in terms of accuracy. And he has extreme confidence in himself, which is what you want in that position. Because if you don't and you doubt yourself, it's really hard. He did a good job, I thought, working the receivers, making them believe too that he was going to get them the ball and make plays and re-energize that group, which is really important. In terms of run game, outside of the quarterback running the ball, the run game is our run game. So it's not like he has to go win over the backs. He's got to win over the O-line with protection checks and putting us in the right run game stuff. But I thought his approach the last couple of weeks, every time I talked to him, he was watching tape of the opponent. He had watched a ton of tape on Missouri and was ready for that game. And then, it got postponed. So he ended up getting a lot of work throughout that time and did a good job with it.
Hey, Kirby, I'm kind of going back to the defense now. I know Mississippi State's drive started out really long and taking up a lot of time off the clock. And then toward the end of the game, toward the end of the third quarter, it felt like the defense was kind of getting a better rhythm against that offense. So I want to know, what are the adjustments that y'all made and how did you end up executing them to shut them down at the end?
really zero. I mean, it's patience. Like I said, we didn't do anything different from one half to the other. A lot of people always think that. If anything, we might have rushed 4 a couple more times. But the success rate on these guys, when you rush 4 and 5, it actually goes down. They get the ball out so quick. Anybody that played man-to-man with them on them, they torched them. What you saw in the LSU game was they really took advantage of teams playing man-to-man, and then we played man a couple snaps, but one of the snaps we played was the big touchdown, and it's like, golly, as soon as you go to it to change it up, bam, they hit you. It's just not worth it. So they got a good quarterback, they got a good system, and they'll be a force to be reckoned with if the quarterback's that accurate and people continue to play them the way that we played them.
Let's go to Jeff Schultz and then Allison.
Kirby, I'm not discounting anything that you said about JT, and I'm certainly not suggesting that he's going to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns every week. But can you understand why people would look at this game and think, why wasn't this guy starting earlier?
Absolutely, I would. But I also think that people should take into consideration that, I've been coaching football for, I don't know how many years, 20, 25 years, and God knows Monken's probably double me, as old as he is. And there's not a decision that we make as coaches and a coaching staff, an offensive staff with 5 guys that I adore and think the world of. Maybe the question should be, man, aren't they glad they got JT here when nobody thought that maybe we needed him? Would I have loved for him to gone out there and done the same thing against other teams? Absolutely. But the decisions we made based on giving us the best opportunity to win. And a lot of that had to do with mobility and Stetson's play. And as that struggled, we had to look for other options. And he did a great job with his opportunity. He also had some help in receivers that came back and the way Mississippi State played them. But I don't want to use that to put, to demean how he played. He played unbelievable. I am proud as hell of the way he played. But every decision we make is based on what gives us the best opportunity to win the game. And the men in that room that are making those decisions, they've got a lot of experience doing it.
Allison, do you have a question? Okay, let's go either Emily or Maria. Connor Riley.
Yeah, Kirby. That go-ahead touchdown there. A couple plays before, a couple drops by Harrison George. What does it say about your team for your team to come up in that situation?
Well, just resilient. They kept coming. Could have tucked their head, been upset, but we got to make those plays. The teams aren't going to give you that many opportunities. And the one we did make was a max blitz. And, they're probably shaking their head at themselves because it was a really long yarded situation. And they tried to bring the house and made them pay, and we kind of played just the opposite on defense and came out ahead. So you win some, you lose some, and give JT credit for standing in there and the backs for picking it up. I think it was Zamir on that play. I'm not sure, but he had a hell of a pickup.
We got time for one more question. Let's go. Alex, do you have a question? Okay, we'll end it right there. Coach, thank you.
Thanks, guys.